I'm convinced that BBC Breakfast modelled themselves on that show.
Oh, absolutely.
Still to come, still to come, still to come.
I was called... I mean, it's like that when you go down outside Parliament and there's a big story. You see lots of people standing... And when Blair announced he was resigning, they said, do you want to come down to College Green and take part in... And it's like a little festival. You have News 24 in their tent, and Sky News in their tent, and Radio 4 in their tent, and you just see this line of politicians all queuing up. And then you go on for 5 minutes, you know, and I found myself standing in a line. It was like queuing up to go to the loos. And Neil Kinnock's in front of you, and Mingus Campbell is behind you. And I saw over there, I saw in another tent, Hazel Blear standing, practising her smile. And she was kind of going...
Oh, dear.
I've got a photo of it.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Eric, let's have a question from our audience.
OK, well, on Easter half-term is Nicole, so what's your question?
Is it true that you nearly got killed by a hippo?
Is it true that I nearly got killed by a hippo?
Yeah.
It is. How did you know that? Is it?
Well read.
I did. We were out in we were in South Africa, and we went on one of these night treks in the Kruger National Park, which is a fantastic nature reserve, and you could see all the animals in the wildlife. And you have these torches that you can shine, because you can't see anything, but if you shine into the trees, you start seeing these eyes staring at you. So, and we had this rustle, and we looked around, and we all shone the torches, and it was a hippo out in the bush, and it turned and looked at us. And hippos, normally animals, if you shine torches, they stand back. Hippos are terrifying. They are really, really aggressive, especially, and they charge towards the lights. And they hate it if you get between them and the water. They think that's you getting in the way. So they just charge. And this Land Rover that we were on, there was a big sort of gamekeeper who was looked like the world's toughest man. He just suddenly went, ah! And he kind of slammed the thing up. And the hippo was coming after us. And there's part of me was thinking, I really do not want to be crushed by a hippo, because part of me was thinking, because at the funeral service back home, everyone will be laughing.
I'm sure they will one day. Listen, one tiny last question from me. I must, if it's true, a real idiosyncrasy. Is it true all the clocks in your house are set to different times? Or is this just...
No, it's not by design. They're just... Yeah,
OK.
We have a clock in the kitchen. The clock is set 10 or so minutes in advance. We don't know how long. We've got to... You can turn it... You do that. It's simply because I've got 3 kids and the school run in the morning is a nightmare. So the only way to get them out in time is like to think that we're ahead of
time.
Right,
I do the same thing with my watch. In fact, Jeremy Kyle's on now. Sorry, folks. OK, let's tell you about today's show. What's going to happen after the break? We're going to go through today's headlines. Armando will lead us through those.
So how much would your average Brit want to pose nude? It's £6,500.
I'll do it for nothing. You're watching The Right Stuff live on 5 with Yasmin Ali by Brown, Terry Christian, and our special guest, Armando Iannucci. But first, though, today's headlines. What's caught your eye, then?
Well, I suppose it's all over the front pages, really. The terror plot bomb, and I feel sorry. This is why I'd never make a politician, really, because you know that you're as a politician, you would be tempted to have a go at Mr. Quick and his little mistake with the things to the cameras, and I just feel very, very sorry for him, really.
I did. I said this yesterday.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
For him,
you know, it's a little. I mean, we all make little mistakes, and you know, he must have been there going, I'm seeing Gordon Brown.
Yeah.
I better just read up.
Yeah.
And
I'm late.
The last thing you think is like, you know, there's going to be cameras and everything there, and it's all going to be over the front page. So I sort of feel sorry really. And the other,
Gordon Brown is saying that you know that a serious bomb plot has been foiled.
Yes, and of course we
Allegedly.
really don't know what all the evidence was and so on. But you know, I'm always very suspicious of these large claims of things that then don't happen, because it's then very difficult to judge what it was that they've stopped from happening.
Absolutely.
So you know, all the advantages with their side and what they're claiming. So it's very difficult to make.
What was interesting though, on the phone-in programmes yesterday on the radio, majority of people were very angry with the photographer.
Yes.
They were so angry that nothing was going to happen to this photographer. Who took these pictures, then flashed them all around. So it was interesting how it had displaced onto this.
And if it's such a scandal that highly security material was on show, then why publish it? You know, if you're annoyed that by someone taking out vital information, then don't express your annoyance by
showing you.
explaining it.
Who's the one replacing him?
He's very good.
I know, but is he not the one who investigated Paul Burrell nicking some of Lady Di's stuff?
Not allegedly, and of course subsequently proved not to be
having
the case.
some of her stuff, I should say. And
just to sort of bring it back to the bomb plot, because the other target, if we like, of the media or of the politicians is Pakistani students generally, from what I can work out.
Yes, and again, you know, it's very tempting here to use that as the headline and use that as your main argument. But I mean, the one thing you don't want to happen is overseas students to feel reluctant to come into British universities, because a lot of British universities survive by the money that they get from overseas students. And you want British universities to be a sort of, hopefully, a beacon of educational learning that is acknowledged internationally. And the last thing you want if you're a student in the Middle East or any sort of sensitive area is to be put off by applying, because...
But there is a loophole where there's not these non-existent colleges, and it's just a way of them getting permits to come over here, and then they just do other jobs.
Yeah, but this morning you've got the president of Pakistan saying, well, we'd help if you only asked us. And it turns out that we haven't really been pushing the Pakistan authorities.
Okay, that's all the stuff connected with this alleged bomb plot. What else have we got out there?
We have here, now this is, there's several reports in education have come out, and because the Teachers Union Conference I always feel sorry if the teachers have their conference at Easter, because it's the one time that you think they get a bit of peace to themselves, but they have their conference at Easter, and they're talking, several stories really, talking about, is there too much homework for primary school students? Should we be abolishing some of the stats because they're imposing too many pressures on pupils and indeed teachers? Because we all know that stats are meant to be like a snapshot of where the school is at that point. But because they know the stats are coming up, schools spend an awful lot of time.
And the tell you of today, English.
And the teaching of English, large criticism of the teaching of English in schools, English literature, which has been reclassified as literacy, and it therefore becomes a sort of box-ticking thing, where as long as you can identify vowels and verbs and maybe get the gist of a poem or a book.
This is what children's laureate Michael Rosen keeps banging on about when he's on this show. It's just saying that instead of people reading and getting pleasure from a story, it's turned into an exercise of analysis.
Yes. I mean, I spent 3 years trying to write a PhD on Paradise Lost by John Milton, which is a fantastic poem. And I'm doing a documentary at the moment.
There's the Jesuit in you coming through.
No, Milton was very anti-Catholic, actually. But I'm doing a documentary for BBC Two about Paradise Lost. And part of the filming I did about just a month ago was I went into a school in Slough where the teacher was teaching this rather elaborate 17th century poem to a classroom of 12-year-olds of all different sort of ethnic backgrounds and cultures and so on. And they were absolutely captivated, because it's all about Satan and the angels in heaven and the great war in heaven and sin coming into the world. It's very mythic. It's like, you know, it's a
Tolkien-esque,
very
almost,
Tolkien-esque.
isn't it?
And they were absolutely captivated with. And I think there's always a danger when we're talking about how we teach kids that we worry that if something is going to be difficult, that they shouldn't be presented with it. And I think kids actually like things that they don't quite get, because it feels mysterious and interesting and
I said this yesterday about my 11-year-old's homework. He's never written a story. There's no imagination involved in it, even when he does English. It is all box ticking.
It's that thing of wanting to try and play safe and not push people too far in case it might stretch them too much or put them off and so on. Whereas, in fact, I think kids, especially at that age, actually love things that are complicated and interesting.
I don't want to rush on, but we've got two more of yours I want to get through as well, so let's do these quickly.
Complete change of pace here. Tap dancing Nazis.
Now we're talking.
There we go.
Now we're talking. Now I'm interested.
There we are.
Right. Tap dancing Nazis in Berlin.
Yes. Not so much the Paradise Lost.
I'll be honest, I just didn't do it for me. I know. You probably hate me for saying that.
3 years I spent studying Paradise Lost, and the one thing I can remember from it is the opening lines of Man's First Disobedience, The Fruit of That Forbidden Tree, have the same rhythm scheme as the theme tune to the Flintstones. Man's First Disobedience.
Tap dancing Nazis.
Anyway, Tap dancing Nazis. Right, this is the producers. Great film from Mel Brooks, the original, which turned into a musical. And at last, he's fulfilled his lifetime's ambition. It's going to be put on in Germany. For those who don't know it, it's about a set of producers who want to put on a musical that they hope will fail, because that way they will make money out of it, because they've got more investment in it than could possibly be recouped from profits. And it's a musical about the Nazis, and it does really well. And it says here, I like the little line here, it says, advanced sales in Berlin have been hesitant. Really like.
And finally,
still
to come.
News just in. There's a great book on documenting man's habitation on Earth called Homo Britannicus, and in Manchester University that's been classified in the gay and lesbian section. And an expert on human origins today said it's very amusing, and I suppose there's a good chance that a gay student with no interest in archaeology might take it off the shelf and be converted to the subject.
Well, there's a chance. But converting gays is a very, very controversial subject.
So, yeah.
Nice one, Amanda. What have you got then, Yasmin?